My name is Riley Monroe. I'm 32, live in Boulder, Colorado, and run a small HVAC company I built from scratch. It's not glamorous. I don't wear blazers or carry a briefcase. My hands are calloused, my boots stained with years of work, but it's mine. Every wire, every bolt, every satisfied client, it's my legacy. And I was proud of it until the day my family made it very clear I was nothing but an eyesore. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I had just wrapped up a long maintenance job out near Lyons. An older couple wanted their system checked before the first snow hit. I remember the sky turning that soft, bruised color it does when dusk creeps in early. Everything felt still, quiet. I stopped by a specialty wine shop on Pearl Street and picked up a bottle of red, something bold, expensive, the kind my mother would approve of. She always cooked a full Thanksgiving dinner, ever since Dad passed away, and I had never missed a single year. Not once. Not even the year I had pneumonia. I showed up, red-nosed and coughing, but there. Because that's what family does, right? My phone rang just as I merged onto Foothills Parkway. Mom flashed on the screen. I smiled and answered without hesitation. Hey, Mom. I just finished a job, picked up the wine. Want me to bring mashed potatoes too? Or maybe that apple pie you like from Finley's? There was a pause, not the usual static or signal delay. This was silence that stretched too long. My mother's voice finally came through, low and hesitant. Riley, there's something I need to talk to you about, and I hope you'll understand. My heart dropped a little, just from the way she said my name. Okay, what is it? I think maybe this year it's better if you don't come to Thanksgiving. I almost veered off the road. I pulled into the nearest gas station, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. What do you mean? Not come. Are you serious? It's just Lauren invited Ethan's parents. They're from D.C. Old school, very proper. They're both attorneys, and, well, Lauren wants everything to be just right. And I ruined that somehow. My voice cracked. No, honey, of course not. It's just. Lauren thinks it might give the wrong impression. She's trying to present a certain image. You know how these things go. I stared at the red wine bottle on the passenger seat. I hadn't even taken the price tag off. So, because I work with my hands, because I didn't go to Georgetown or wear designer heels, I'm not fit for the table. Don't make this harder than it is, she said, soft but firm. That tone she always used when saying something cruel while expecting me to take it quietly. My voice was trembling now. Do you remember who paid Lauren's first semester at Georgetown? Do you remember who wired money for her housing when you said it wasn't in the budget? I gave her a future I never had. Mom was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like an answer in itself. It's just one night, Riley. We'll do brunch next week, just us. Please don't make this a bigger deal, I didn't reply. I just sat there in my truck, parked between a fuel pump and a flickering vending machine, while the people I had sacrificed for sat around making sure I wouldn't embarrass them in front of strangers. I had worked every holiday shift for years to cover Lauren's tuition. I skipped vacations, took emergency calls at midnight, just so she could walk proudly in ivy-covered halls. And now, I wasn't good enough to eat turkey with them. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't throw the wine bottle against the wall or call anyone to scream about how unfair it all was. I just sat there, alone in my apartment, still wearing my work uniform. My jacket smelled faintly of coolant and dust. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, as if the answers might be hiding in the cracks of old paint. The silence pressed in from every wall. I didn't even turn on the lights. Just me, the wine, and the realization that I had been erased from my own family's tradition. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jenna, my cousin, the only one who ever calls just to check in. I thought you should know. Lauren told Aunt Lydia she didn't want you coming tonight. Said she was embarrassed. I blinked at the message. Reread it. She said she didn't want Ethan's family to know someone in her family works with their hands. My grip on the phone tightened so hard I left prints on the glass. My mind reeled, not just from the words, but from the source. Lauren, my little sister, the same girl who used to sneak into my bed during thunderstorms, the same kid I walked through 3 feet of snow for, just to deliver her rent on time during her first semester in D.C. The same girl I surprised with a laptop on her 18th birthday because she was afraid of falling behind in class. I was her hero once, and now I was her shame. I opened my camera roll, swiped through old photos of us together, Halloween costumes, her high school graduation, her first time riding a bike. One of them caught me off guard, Lauren hugging me after her acceptance letter came in, eyes red from crying. I had paid the application fee. I had written her first draft of the essay. And yet here I was, cut from Thanksgiving dinner like I was a stain they couldn't scrub out. I still remember what it felt like the next morning. The early winter sun slipped through the kitchen window, sharp and cold, spilling across my table like nothing had happened. But everything had. I sat there with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, the TV on but muted, scrolling through social media on autopilot, and then I saw it, Lauren, in a fire-red dress, standing in the middle of Mom's living room with Ethan, smiling like a damn holiday catalog. The table was perfectly set behind them, white china, gold-rimmed glasses, fresh floral centerpiece, candles lit, every detail curated. The caption read, "Grateful for a Thanksgiving with the ones who matter most." The ones who matter most. No one mentioned me. No one asked where I was. No one even noticed I was missing. Because to them, maybe I never really existed in the first place. I put my phone down, but my heart kept racing. The betrayal didn't come in one big explosion. It came in the quiet edits, the exclusions, the way they didn't save me a chair, the way no one thought to say my name. That was the part that gutted me the most. I thought I had built something real with them. I thought I belonged. But now, I wasn't even a footnote. By the time the sun dipped behind the Rockies that night, I had stopped checking my phone. No one was going to call. No one was going to say, "Hey, where are you?" or "This doesn't feel right without you." The silence wasn't accidental. It was orchestrated. I was meant to be left out, forgotten. But I couldn't forget. I sat at my desk, the only light coming from the screen of my laptop. The Georgetown University portal was already open, something I kept bookmarked out of habit. I knew the layout by heart. I had been logging in for years, checking balances, paying fees, monitoring Lauren's tuition like it was my own child. Spring term balance due, $18,740. Payment due in 14 days. I stared at that line. My hand hovered over the mouse, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel panic. I didn't even feel like I owed her an explanation. I moved the cursor toward the button. Remove payment method. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure? This action cannot be undone. Funny, neither can betrayal. I clicked confirm. The system let out a soft ping. It sounded like the latch of a door, closing quietly. But inside me, it echoed like a gavel slamming down. That was it. Years of sacrifice. Years of missed vacations, double shifts, overtime calls at 2 a.m., all so Lauren could chase her dreams without ever wondering how the bills got paid. Gone with a single click. I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, and let out a long breath I didn't even know I'd been holding. The apartment was still. The world outside went on like nothing had shifted. But inside me, something seismic had cracked open. I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. Instead, I made tea. The next morning, I was already at the office by 7 a.m. A hot mug of Earl Grey sat beside my laptop. I logged into the portal again, just to make sure. The message was there, plain as day. Payment method removed. Balance unpaid. I didn't flinch. By 9 a.m., my phone began vibrating. The first call was from Mom, then Lauren, then again. All went to voicemail. By noon, I was adjusting vents in the lobby of Quinn and Harris Law offices when I glanced at my phone. 8 missed calls. 14 unread messages. One stood out. From Lauren, "What did you just do?" "The school says the account is gone. They said my tuition's unpaid. Call me back now." Then Mom, "Riley, you can't be this cruel to your sister. She has no one else but you." I froze, standing in that upscale, marble-floored reception area, clipboard still in hand, the scent of leather and air freshener thick around me. But the cold that ran down my spine had nothing to do with the AC. It was the realization that in my mother's eyes I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't family. I was an insurance policy, a fallback plan, a walking wallet. I put the clipboard down, straightened my jacket, and for the first time, I felt the faintest spark of peace. 3 days passed. I kept my phone on silent, tucked away in a drawer at the office. No notifications, no calls, no guilt, just quiet. A year ago, that kind of silence would have crushed me. Now it felt like armor. It was early afternoon when Jenna called. I hadn't spoken to her since the night of the uninvitation, but I trusted her. She didn't call unless it mattered. "Have you heard?" she asked, her voice low, almost cautious. My gut clenched. "Heard what?" "Lauren showed up at Jordan's house this morning," she said. I frowned. "Jordan, Ethan's brother." "No," Jenna replied, her tone dropping. "Ex-boyfriend." I sat up straighter. "Wait, what?" "Ethan broke up with her. Moved out of the apartment this morning. Someone saw Lauren crying in his front yard for almost an hour." I didn't say a word. A part of me wanted to ask why, but I already knew. Jenna filled in the rest. "Apparently Ethan found out who really paid her tuition. He thought it was your parents this whole time. When he realized it was you, he was stunned." I closed my eyes. "She lied to him, Riley," Jenna continued. "For 2 years. Never once told him you were the one covering everything. Ethan said he felt like he'd been living in a play. And the main character wasn't even real." There was no satisfaction in hearing that. Not really. Just a strange hollowness, like I had watched someone flip a switch in the dark and light up a truth I'd carried alone for far too long. Later that day, Jenna called again. This time, she was almost breathless with the details. "They met up last night," she said. "Lauren and Ethan. At that cafe in Belmont, the one near the bookstore." I didn't respond, but I imagined it vividly. Lauren walking in, 15 minutes late as always, wrapped in silk, makeup perfect, trying to hold on to that polished image she'd built like a fortress. Ethan already there, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "He asked her straight up," Jenna said, "why she never told him the truth about you." I imagined Lauren stalling, wringing her hands, the corner of her mouth twitching like it always did when she was nervous. She said she didn't want him to think she was taking advantage, that her family situation was complicated. She tried to sound delicate, innocent, typical Lauren. "But Ethan didn't buy it," Jenna said. "He told her, if you're old enough to build a future, you're old enough to be grateful for the person who made it possible." Those words hit harder than I expected, not because I needed to hear them, but because someone finally said them out loud. "And then," Jenna added, almost whispering, he said, "I can't love someone who's ashamed of their own sister, because if it's her today, it'll be me tomorrow." I leaned back in my chair, eyes fixed on the ceiling. That was the moment. The crack in Lauren's perfect little narrative. The part where everything she had built on image and illusion started to crumble. And the saddest part? She still didn't understand why. Monday morning, 9:17 a.m. I was halfway through a strategy meeting with my tech team, discussing ventilation specs for a new coastal hotel chain, when the office door slammed open so hard the chime above it screeched. Every head turned. There she was, Lauren, Hair tangled, mascara streaked down her cheeks, heels caked in mud. Her coat was half on, one sleeve dragging behind her like she had sprinted across a parking lot without thinking. She looked like a storm trying to hold itself together. "I need to talk to my sister," she shouted, her voice trembling, not with anger, but with desperation. The room went silent. My team glanced at me, unsure whether to move or freeze. I stood up slowly, spine straight, expression unreadable. My voice didn't rise. It didn't have to. "This is a place of business, Lauren. You don't get to come in here and cause a scene." Her eyes were wide, glassy, unfocused. "You can't just cut me off like nothing happened." I didn't blink. "I didn't cut you off like nothing happened. I cut you off because everything happened." She took a step forward, hand trembling as she reached toward my desk. "I've lost everything. You don't understand. Georgetown is threatening to expel me. Ethan left. Mom's crying every night. You've ruined my life." I held her gaze, unflinching. "No, Lauren. You ruined it the moment you decided appearances were more important than people. I just stopped funding the lie." Before she could respond, our office security guard, Paul, stepped inside. Calm, professional. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave the building." "Don't touch me," she snapped, spinning toward him. "I'm the sister of the woman who runs this place." I stepped forward, my voice like ice. "You're the sister of the woman who runs this place, Lauren. You don't run it, and you certainly don't get to disrupt it." She froze, breath shallow, as if the words had slapped her harder than a hand ever could. "You're abandoning me!" she screamed, looking around, hoping someone, anyone, might come to her defense. No one moved. No sympathetic glances. No nods of understanding. Just the quiet hum of the HVAC system and the low static of a conference call on mute. And her breathing. Shallow. Shaky. "I need help," she whispered. "You can't just walk away." I nodded once, cold but not cruel. And yet, I did. Paul gestured toward the door. She didn't fight this time, just turned, shoulders hunched, and walked out like a ghost who had finally realized she was no longer welcome among the living. The glass door clicked shut behind her. A second later, the chime above rang once more, this time soft. Final. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Darren, my senior tech, cleared his throat awkwardly and said, "So, we were talking about duct routing for the second floor." I nodded. "Yes, let's keep going." And just like that, we did. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. "Ma," the screen read. I hesitated, then answered. "Riley, what happened this morning?" My mother's voice was already cracked with panic. "Lauren said she was kicked out of your office. She's humiliated. Do you know what this could mean if she's expelled?" I sipped my water slowly, let the silence stretch before answering. "I do know. And maybe she needs to learn what accountability feels like." "You're her sister." Mom snapped. "Family doesn't turn its back like this." I set the glass down. My voice didn't waver. I was her sister, but to her, I was only ever a tool. And when I stopped being useful, I stopped being family. The next morning, my inbox was already full. Not with invoices, not with vendor updates or contract approvals. With judgment. Aunt Carol emailed first. "Riley, I heard what happened. Are you really going to let your sister get expelled? What would your father think?" Then Uncle Jeff called. "No, hello, no pleasantries. Just, you went too far. Family means something. You don't get to rewrite that because your feelings got hurt." By lunchtime, I'd received a message from someone I hadn't spoken to since high school. "Hey, I heard about Lauren. I know you two used to be close. Is it true you pulled her tuition support right before finals? That's brutal." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because for the first time in years I knew where I stood. I wasn't the one destroying the family. I was the only one who had ever tried to hold it together. Quietly, without recognition, without demand. And now that I had stopped, everyone noticed. Funny how silence only matters when it stops serving them. That evening, I sat by the window, watching the pine trees sway under the soft, golden light of a Colorado sunset. My phone lit up again, Mom. I answered, not because I owed her anything, but because I was done hiding. Riley, she said immediately. Lauren's devastated. She hasn't eaten. She's crying nonstop. You have to fix this. I let out a quiet breath. No, Mom, I don't. She's in her final year. Mom pleaded. What if she loses her scholarship? Her future? She was fine risking that when she erased me from her life, I said calmly. She wasn't thinking about her future when she decided I wasn't good enough to sit at the same table. You promised you'd help her until she graduated. I paused, staring at the soft ripples in my glass of water. I promised to help my sister, but the Lauren you're defending? That's not someone who sees me as family. That's someone who sees me as a transaction. Mom's voice softened, shifting into that tone that always used to work when I was younger. You're the only one in this family who can help. Please, Riley. You've always been the strong one, the dependable one. I smiled bitterly. That's not a compliment, Mom. That's a confession. A confession that no one ever protected me the way I protected all of you. She fell silent. Then, as always, came the line she used whenever she had nothing left to say. You've changed. This time I didn't flinch. No, Mom. I've just finally started living as myself. I ended the call. No yelling. No accusations. Just truth and the sound of it settling into the space I had once filled with silence. That night, I didn't dream about reconciliation. I didn't picture Lauren standing at my door with teary apologies. I didn't long for a text saying, I'm sorry. You were right. I just slept, and when I woke up, I didn't feel guilty for once. It was a few weeks after Christmas when it arrived. A plain white envelope, handwritten, no return address. But I recognized the gentle slant of each letter before I even opened it. Margaret Monroe, my grandmother, the only person in the family who never once asked what I did for a living or who I was trying to impress. She lived alone in a small cottage outside Salem, 3 hours from Boulder. We only saw each other during holidays, but somehow she always saw me. Inside was a single sheet of ivory paper, folded carefully. My dear Riley, I don't know exactly what's happened in the family lately. I hear fragments, whispers, people saying you've changed. But I want you to know, from where I sit, that sounds like something worth celebrating. I paused, blinking hard. She continued, when a woman like you finds the courage to set boundaries, many will be uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It usually means you've finally done something right. You've given. For years, you gave and gave. Money, time, comfort, presence. You did so without fanfare, without praise. Because love, to you, never needed an audience. But Riley, love does not mean erasing yourself. Love does not mean being the only one who shows up. I sat still, the weight of every word sinking in deeper than any lecture or apology ever had. She went on. People will always have opinions. They will call you cold when you refuse to keep bleeding for them. They will say you've turned your back when you've only just learned to face forward. Let them talk. What matters is that you are finally protecting your own heart. And I want you to know, quietly and without condition, I am proud of you. Not for the money you've earned, not for the contracts you've signed, but for standing up after all these years and saying, enough. I read that letter 3 times, not because I didn't understand it the first time, but because it felt like being seen fully without needing to explain who I was or why I did what I did. In a family where I had been the utility line that powered everyone else's dreams, here was someone telling me, you don't have to light every room to matter. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer by my nightstand, not for safekeeping, but because I knew. There would be days ahead when I'd need to read it again, not because I doubted myself, but because reminders of your worth are sometimes the only thing that keeps you from going back to who you used to be. And I wasn't going back. January came in quietly. No cards in the mail. No calls about New Year's resolutions or let's start fresh. Just snow on the rooftops, the hum of space heaters, and the scent of solder from the back of the workshop. But I didn't feel lonely. I felt grounded. With the money I had once poured into tuition payments, I signed a lease for a second work van, hired 2 certified techs, both women, upgraded to the newest carbon monoxide testing equipment, ordered branded uniforms, finally replaced our broken reception desk with a sleek walnut counter. Then came the big one, a 3-year service contract with a growing chain of coffee shops in the Pearl District. High traffic, all-season maintenance, 6-figure value. I signed the deal on a Wednesday morning, pen in hand, knowing I didn't owe a single part of that success to anyone who ever tried to make me feel small. Not Lauren, not Mom, not even the version of myself who used to say yes just to feel wanted. These days no one asked, so when are you switching to a real job? No one sighed when I said, I run my own company. No one rolled their eyes when I showed up in steel-toe boots. And the best part? No one treated me like I was invisible. On Christmas Eve, I sat alone on the couch in a moss-green sweater, body tired after a long day of rooftop units and icy ladders. Outside the window, the neighborhood was aglow. Blinking lights, children's laughter, the distant echo of church bells. I poured myself a glass of white wine, reached for the remote, planned to watch something silly, something feel-good, maybe even something completely pointless. Then my phone lit up. A message from Mom. Riley, Christmas just isn't the same without you. Everyone misses you. Call me. I stared at it for a while, maybe a minute, maybe a lifetime. I thought of all the Christmases past, how I'd wrapped every gift, carried the little plastic tree up from the basement, paid for dinner, slipped gas money into Mom's purse without her asking. And still, when company came around, I was the one they told to dress a little nicer, or maybe let Lauren handle the toast. And now suddenly, they missed me. I took a breath, exhaled slowly, and did something I'd never done before. I deleted the message, not because I didn't love them, not because I didn't miss them, but because, for the first time in my life, I loved myself more than I feared their disapproval. I didn't need another dinner where my silence was treated as grace. I didn't need another seat at a table where I was only welcome if I came bearing gifts. I didn't need another holiday built on the shaky foundation of keep the peace. What I needed was peace, and I had finally found it. A few weeks after the holiday, quiet settled in. Just as the New Year's damp winds rolled through Boulder, I received a letter I never expected. Handwritten, unrushed, from Grandma. She hadn't lived near us in years. After Grandpa passed, she moved to a quiet suburb outside Salem. We only saw her on holidays, if that. But even as a child, I remembered how she never once asked what grade I got, or if I had a boyfriend, or whether I was living up to my potential. She just asked if I was eating enough, if I was sleeping okay, if I was still smiling. The letter was simple, graceful, but each word sank like stone in a still lake. My dear Riley, when a woman finally learns how to protect herself, people will say she's changed. They'll say she's cold, ungrateful, cruel. But I hope you'll remember they said the same things about me once, too. I paused. My breath caught in the back of my throat. She continued, You weren't wrong to walk away. You weren't wrong to say enough. You were wrong to believe for so long that your worth was measured by what you gave away. Love that demands silence, shame, or sacrifice isn't love. It's control dressed in holiday wrapping. And no matter what they say, Riley, it's not selfish to choose yourself. It's survival. I read it 3 times. And then I folded it gently and tucked it beside the letter she'd sent me on my 18th birthday, the one that had once told me to keep building, even if no one sees what you're building for. In that moment, I finally understood. I used to think family was about sacrifice, that if I gave enough, paid enough, forgave enough, they'd eventually come around. They'd see me, love me, choose me. But I was wrong, because the truth is, no one is obligated to love you just because they share your last name. And I am not obligated to destroy myself for people who only learned how to take. I had spent so many years trying to be the good one, the one who stayed quiet, who picked up the bill, who showed up early, stayed late, and didn't ask for thanks. I thought that made me strong. But strength isn't in how much you carry for others. It's in knowing when to put it down. I don't feel guilty for ignoring Mom's texts anymore. I don't feel ashamed when someone calls me cold or says, "You've changed." And I don't lie awake wondering if Lauren will ever apologize. Because the truth is, I don't need her to. I've already made peace with the silence. And in that silence, I found something no holiday gathering, no photo-perfect dinner table, no glittering wine bottle ever gave me. I found myself. I know there are people out there who'll hear my story and think, that's too harsh. She should have forgiven. She should have found a way to fix it. But to those people, I want to say this. You cannot fix something that never included you to begin with. You cannot heal in a house that continues to wound you every time you show up. And you cannot keep setting yourself on fire just to keep others warm. I didn't walk away because I was angry. I walked away because I was done being invisible. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from betrayal alone, but from the realization that someone you love deeply never really loved you back in the way you needed. They loved the things you gave, the stability you offered, the way you always said yes. But not you. If you're in a situation like that, if your presence is only welcome when it's convenient, when it benefits others, when you stay small and quiet, I want you to know something. Choosing yourself is not betrayal. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. Saying I deserve more is not selfish. It's survival. And eventually it's freedom. I no longer dream of being invited to dinners where I'm only there to be tolerated. I no longer check my phone hoping for a message that says, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." I no longer believe that love means giving until I disappear, because I wasn't born to be a backdrop in someone else's story. I wasn't put here to be the convenient older sister, the fallback plan, the bank account in boots. I was born to live, and now, finally, I am. So if you've been giving and giving until there's nothing left, if your love is always met with silence or shame, please know this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not the problem. You are just the first one in your family to say enough. And that, more than anything, is what makes you free. What do you think of Riley's decision? Was she right to walk away? Have you ever been in a situation where choosing yourself felt like betrayal, but turned out to be the bravest thing you've ever done? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow AITA Stories for more true stories of dignity, boundaries, and the kind of strength that comes not from revenge, but from finally choosing peace.